Hello, everyone. Come on in. Welcome. Welcome to another series of career journeys with Coach Stella. Come on into this space. Welcome, everyone. Go grab a friend. Tell them we're on. Grab your lunch, your beverage of choice. Happy Friday Eve, everyone. Happy Friday Eve. I am Coach Stella, and we are here for another edition of our summer series where we are talking to everyday individuals on their career journeys. I am joined by my wonderful, wonderful colleague, Sarah Blackerby. I am so excited for you all to hear this journey today. Before we get started here, give folks more space to come into the room. Before we introduce our wonderful guests this week, I want to remind everyone of these grassroots campaign. We're talking about all things workplace, right? Take this screenshot, log in. We started this grassroots effort on reminding CEOs and leadership within organizations that where we work matters. We all want a place where we are seen, valued, and heard. So please help us create some noise, make a difference, stand together in solidarity, and tell all the organizations that diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace is needed now so more than ever. Sign the petition. It is confidential, but the more signatures we get, the more letters we can send out to CEOs. So sign it, pass it on, tell a friend or 20, tell them to sign. We are also creating space for folks to share their stories along this platform of career journeys. So you have an opportunity to share your story so we can, again, create more awareness that where we work matters, and let CEOs know that diversity, equity, inclusion is here to stay. All
We're
right.
almost at 300 signatures, which is our first milestone to start sending letters out to CEOs of Fortune 1000 companies. So help us get there. We're so close.
So close, so close. Thank you. All right. So with that, let's get into it. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Stella.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be on today. I am very excited to get to know more about your career journey. So I have some questions for you. First, I want you to give an opportunity to introduce yourself to this space. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, anything that you would like the folks to know about you.
Sure. As Stella mentioned, we work together. We actually started at Diversity at Workplace on the same day. So we share a work anniversary. And while Stella is on the client facing side, I am the behind the scenes magician. So I'm the senior operations manager and I do all things operations, marketing, event planning. And it's really interesting how I got into this role because I actually spent almost 20 years at one of the largest insurance companies here in the state of Massachusetts. And I started there in member services, worked my way up, and left there as a senior project manager. And it's very funny. I did a little stint in sales. I did a stint in marketing. I did call management, support centers. So all that experience has come to play in what I do today.
That is awesome, Sarah. So let's unpack that a little bit. Let's start back. Let's talk about childhood. What did you want to be when you grew up? Well, I know that we probably got that questions every
Yeah.
time you turned a new age. Well, what did you want to be when you grew up, and how did you come to that?
I'll probably age myself a little bit, but there used to be this show called Profiler on TV, and it was a female FBI profiler. And so for quite a few years, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into psychology and specifically focus on being an FBI profiler. And that was just something about it spoke to me. Clearly, I veered far away from that path. Part of it being I had a personal experience with firearms that made me very wary of them, and it's a requirement to carry in the FBI. So that definitely took FBI profiler off the list. And then life happens, and I moved away from schooling, and you got to have schooling to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So I learned on the job and found a way to move my career forward based on what I was doing day to day.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about that. Let's fast forward a bit. You said you left schooling. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I come from the generation of gifted and talented students. So I was a gifted and talented student. I was a really dedicated student all through high school. I graduated out of a class of over 400, and I was in the top 10th percentile. So spent a lot of time really focusing on making sure I had the grades because I knew I was going to need scholarships and likely merit scholarships to be able to go to college. And by the time I got to my senior year, I was a little burnt out. Tried to talk my mom into letting me do a gap year, and it did not go well. And I was 17 when I graduated, so I didn't turn 18 until after I was fully graduated out of high school. So, as a 17-year-old, mom says, figure it out. You're going to college. You figure it out. And at the time, I picked occupational therapy. I think this is one of the things that most people don't know about me is I actually did a full semester at a local college here in Boston. And it was a very regimented, specific OT program. And I was one of 4 of the youngest people in the course. A lot of the people were going into that dedicated course post-college, or they'd spent some years in the workforce themselves and had decided that this is where they wanted to go. So it's something that spoke to me, the idea of being able to work with people who were going through a difficult time in their lives, and being able to teach them fine motor skills, which is really like the major difference between PT and OT. PT is teaching you to walk again. OT is teaching you to brush your teeth. So was really interested in those fine motor skills, got into the program, actually interviewed and got accepted during my college interview, started the program, made Dean's List, thought it was great until we did a little brief internship working with children with Down syndrome. And my empathetic nature said, you can't cry at work every day. That's not helpful. So I decided to leave the program. And at that point, my mom agreed, like, okay, you can leave this program, but you got to get a full-time job. And that's how I ended up in the workforce. I've done some schooling here and there, did a full semester of credits while I was also doing full-time work in my early 20s. And I got into a company where my work ethic and my ability to learn on the job counted more than a college degree.
All right. I love that story, and it's very new to me. Apologies that my camera doesn't seem to be on. Sarah, can you see my camera? Can you see me?
I can't see you at the moment.
All right. All part of technology. All right.
Make it work on the fly.
Make it work. We'll make it work.
Yeah.
All right. Can you see my logo?
I can see your logo and I can hear you. So
okay. So we'll try it again, but keep the logo on for now. I'm not sure why my camera just went dark like that. But yes, thank you for sharing that. So I also moonlight as a college counselor, and I would say so. I help current rising juniors in their as seniors through the college application process. And I also spent years working on college campuses, and the amount of burnouts I see for first year students. So you recognize that. You said you were a part of the gifted pool, and there's all these memes going on now around if you were a part of the gifted program in the 90s, how you feeling today?
Yeah. How's your perfectionist tendencies and your anxiety? Check,
Yes,
check.
yes. And so it's fascinating that at 17, you were advocating, that you wanted a gap year and your parent was seeing none of it. And, how you went into, and it's, how you went into this career field or this major where folks who it was their second career paths, or it was older
Yeah.
people. So I'm even thinking back now, hindsight's always 2020, but I think that was also a sign that says, hey, go out into the workforce, live a little, and then come back.
Yeah. And I understand where my mom was coming from. My older sister had decided not to go to college right out of high school, and she hadn't gone back yet 2 years later when I graduated. My mom at the time really wanted a college degree. She's a licensed practical nurse, so she's been in the workforce with a degree of some sort, but she always wanted to get into the business world. And I think a lot of those sort of ideas and thoughts and the world at the time said you can't get ahead if you don't have some kind of certification or practical training or a degree. And so I think she was worried for me, and I understand that, but I also knew I needed to find something I could do and be proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's fast forward to your first professional role. Can you talk to me a little bit about that and how you navigated um, entering into that space and working through? I know you said you were with the organization for 20 years, but you were in a variety of different roles. Let's talk about the first role and highlights from that experience.
Yeah. So I ended up working for the insurance company sort of through luck. My best friend had gotten a job there, and she told me they had a career fair coming up for their member services area, which is customer service, answering phones. And at the time, I had experience as an assistant manager in retail. I come from the days of Contempo Casuals. So I was an assistant manager for Contempo Casuals. And in part of that job, they had opened up an offshoot of a brand, and I'd helped open those stores. So I was like, okay, I've got a lot of customer service experience. I had run a makeup counter for a couple of years, selling traditional makeup, and I didn't like the retail space. So I wanted to move into something that had set hours and didn't have a traditional holiday season like retail does. So my friend said, I'm working for this insurance company. I'm doing member services. It's been a really great job. It's very solid hours, and they need people. They're having a fair. So I went to the career fair, did an interview, and I remember feeling really comfortable in the interview, like it was just a conversation, and then radio silence. So I reached out, and I was fairly persistent in reaching out to say, what's the plan? When are decisions being made? Is there another interview step? And it's very funny that, a few weeks later, I got an official offer letter in the mail. And when I finally joined, they said part of what had been the final decision was that I was persistent in saying I want to work here and being able to follow through. And that definitely came in handy in member services. You're tied to a phone for pretty much 8 hours of the day. And when it comes to health insurance, you're answering very personal questions and explaining incredibly complex concepts to people. So trying to explain how deductibles work, trying to explain how prior authorizations work, trying to talk people through a difficult life experience when they're dealing with a medical circumstance so that they truly understand how to navigate the system appropriately to get the care that they need, and to make sure that they understand what their requirements are, what the physician's requirements are, how the payment plan works. Like, are you paying a copay? Are you paying a deductible? How does this work? Answering questions when people have a bill that they have no idea how it happened or how they're going to pay it. There's a lot of empathy that goes into that kind of customer service. And I think it really resonated with the empathy that drove me to want to do occupational therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It aligned with being raised by a nurse and being around the medical field my entire life, but was a different flavor, and was able to use my skills in a different way.
That's awesome. And it's interesting how you said persistence is what paid off. So they ghosted you essentially. And because you followed up, they hired you.
Yeah, it was almost like a second test. It was almost like a secret interview process that you didn't know about. So I thought that was really interesting, and it's kind of kept me thinking about, as I move through the world and as I change things, like that persistency paid off in that first role, and it paid off as I continued to move through, because member services is a foot in the door for this company. People work there their entire lives. I mean, people start out of college, meet their partner, get married, have kids, see their kids go off to college, see their kids start a company and retire all at this place. So the best way to get in was member services. And I didn't know it at the time. I just wanted normal hours. I just didn't work retail.
You don't even know what you're walking into. All you know is what you don't want. And I think that, this career journey, it's step by step. I don't know what I want, but I don't know. I don't know what I want. I don't know everything. I do know I want this, and I definitely know I don't want that. So you tried out retail, loved it when it was good, but then when you were looking for something new, more stable hours, you went on to the next opportunity, not knowing that this is usually most folks' first foot into the door. And it sounds like it was just a lot of skills you were able to enhance, give birth to, in that customer service role.
Yeah. And I mean, I started there when I was 19 years old. So I wasn't even old enough to have a 401k as one of the perks when I started. So I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't know at the time how to really take what I had learned in the different roles that I had and present them as transferable skills. My ability to be clear and to have a conversation and talk through things without putting them into business buzzwords is probably what made that interview so successful.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, were there any professional development? Because you probably didn't take advantage of them. I remember as a young professional, I would get, these professional development opportunities and say, who needs that? So I'm wondering, were there things in place, programs in place to help you understand where you were?
I laugh because at the insurance company, they've got a very robust learning and development department and a lot of robust career development and professional development programs and offerings. I took advantage of everything that company offered me. I took every advantage. If there was an opportunity for a networking event, I went. If there was an opportunity for a career development program, while I didn't really do well in the occupational therapy space because I couldn't see myself doing the job forever, I made Dean's List that first semester. Like I do thrive in an environment that values learning new concepts, and being able to translate those concepts into the real world. So I consider myself, without my college degree, a lifelong learner. And I'm very happy to take advantage when the opportunity is offered. So I took plenty of trainings that were not required because I wanted to learn. One of the things that I remember really clearly is I took a program called Career Journeys, and our principal at Diversity at Workplace, Sue, was actually involved in that. And I remember one of the things that she said was, you have to steer your own ship when it comes to your career. Nobody's going to just hand you the opportunity you think you deserve. And I took that to heart. So I continued to make sure that I took advantage of every opportunity that was given to me. I got involved in lots of programs. I did a lot of volunteering, and I built myself a reputation based not just on my work ethic, but on my desire to be a part of the company culture.
Sarah, you are really spitting a lot of gems here, and I'm it's something that a lot of our listeners need to hear. I was recently at a conference and I caught up with a former colleague, and I was asking him and said, is your team here? I would love to meet some of them. And he said, they were very hesitant to come. They didn't want to come. They were more geared towards online learning and development. And I said, wow, it's such a missed opportunity when you are narrowing your options to interact and engage and network and come together. Collective learning, we're losing that. And so thank you for giving light to that, because I think it's something that all professionals, but in particular young professionals, need to hear and need to understand. This is how you get ahead, or this is what upward mobility looks like.
Yeah, and I think there's a balance. I mean, I will say I was very young. I was very outgoing. I considered myself an extrovert at the time. I'm in a different decade now, and I'm not as extroverted. I'm not as willing to give up my personal time to go to a networking event that I don't know I'm going to get the most out of. Mm-hmm. But you can balance that in today's virtual world. They may be geared more towards virtual learning. Great. Are they taking advantage of that? Wonderful. But are they engaging in the virtual environment when they are taking advantage of the virtual learning? It's not just going and attending and listening. It's really asking questions. It's getting engaged in the chat. It's sharing your LinkedIn profile so that you can connect with people and network that way. So there's a balance. If you are introverted, if you do suffer from social anxiety, which I do, you've got to find that balance. And then I think in-person has a lot of value, but I think you can do the ones that you're going to get a good bang for your buck out of. So if it takes a lot for you to fill your social battery up and go, you don't do one every month. You look at what your bandwidth is, and you do in-person ones where I have a real interest in going to this. I really know that this audience is people I want to talk to. And you find that balance.
100% agree. Whether it's virtual or in person, the level of engagement should stay the same and be active. I'm going to share the screen here. Welcome to everyone who's just joining us. Apologies in advance. My camera decided to quit on me 5 minutes into our session today, but we are still rolling with it. So with that, we talked a lot about strategy early in your career and how to move up and different things. And I would be remiss if I didn't plug our upcoming Power Moves Career Success Workshop we have coming up at Diversity at Workplace. My colleague and I have created this workshop where we want to get into the nitty-gritty of what does it really take to be successful in our individual careers. So whether you are just starting out or whether you have been in your career and you've made some traction, but at some point you stopped advancing, so you're at a stalemate, or you experienced a setback. This interactive virtual workshop will help you get back on track, build the skills, be a part of a community. Networking is key in all of these power moves. So click the QR code, log in, get some more information about it, purchase your ticket, pass it on to a mentee that may need, or a colleague who may need and want to take advantage of it. It's coming up in less than a month here. So registration is still open. All right.
Yeah, I wish I had this when I was, there were definitely times where I felt like I'd interviewed for the same role. I wasn't getting it. And the feedback I was getting was, oh, we had two really shiny apples, but, X was just a little shinier than you. And sometimes I would attribute that to them having a degree. Sometimes I would attribute it to them just knowing how to play the game better. And I think the chess piece is an interesting imagery, because I always think that, especially in a large corporate environment, there is a secret game of chess going on.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the rules of the game, you are definitely not going to win that game.
Exactly. So how do you learn those rules? How do you learn those rules? How do you know what you don't know? So this workshop will definitely answer those questions. And absolutely, it's a labor of love, because I really wish I had this when I experienced a setback in my career. What I thought was a setback, but it's actually a setup. So I am so upset my camera is not working, because if you could just see the joy on my face and in hearing your story and how you've navigated things thus far. So let's fast forward a little bit. So, talk to me about your transition from customer service into other roles within that organization. How did you navigate that?
It's really funny. I started out, in member services, just looking for those regular hours. Obviously, as I did it more, you get exposure to sort of what the next steps are. And it's a fairly large corporate environment. So one of the things that you don't really learn until you experience it is that there's a very specific ladder up that not only are you presented, but that a lot of times your leadership has decided for you without you even knowing. And so there was a very sort of clear path that if you wanted to get into leadership, you moved into like a supervisor role of a team. And then from there, you went into a manager of a team role. And that's the direction that I was being sort of pushed to. But I was doing all the things that I was being told to do, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And at a certain point, I was, this isn't feeling like the place I want to be. I think I can get into leadership in a different way. And I was still at the time wanting to stay within the customer service, the member service area. And they had a role called quality coaches. So, this call will be recorded for quality purposes. Somebody's got to listen to that call for quality purposes. And I just felt like, okay, I'm at the point where I'm teaching new people how to do this job. I'm sitting in and coaching them on those calls. That's essentially what the quality coach does. They listen to the calls, they listen to recorded calls, and they score them. And then they give feedback to the person who took the call on how to do it better the next time. And then they also do live calls where they sit in, they literally sit behind you and plug in. And I really wanted to do that. I went for the role once, didn't get it, and just felt like this wasn't my time, but it's not a definite no. It's not that this isn't the right role for me. It's that it's not the right time. I need to do just a little bit more to make me stand out against the other, people who are going for the role. Second time I interviewed, I got the job. And it was a great learning experience for me, because it gave me exposure to a different set of leadership. It gave me exposure to projects and opportunities that you don't really have when you are literally tied to the phone. And I was offered an opportunity to be the person who actually QCs the very private locked room group who answers calls for the employee population. So there was a level of security and anonymity and privacy that had to be protected, and being able to have that opportunity, it showed me that I had the chance to say, yeah, I'm willing to put myself in that situation, which nobody else on the team really wanted. And I'm going to figure out how to make it work to my advantage. And that was great because it gave me a stepping stone into some of the next things. My path there was not linear. It probably didn't make sense to anybody looking at it because it wasn't the way anybody else had followed it. So I didn't go straight up the ladder. I went up the ladder and then I went over and up and then I got on a different ladder. But I took every opportunity to figure out, okay, in the role, what do I love about this role? What other roles am I being exposed to? And do any of them speak to me? And that's how I ended up in call management support, which was essentially the team that runs the behind the scenes of the call center. They make sure the calls are routing to the right places. They manage the workload. So taking in all the vacation requests, approving them based on what we need, doing the forecasting for how many calls we expect we're going to need. I became one of the less liked people because I was the person always going around being like, hey, can you do overtime? Can you stay for a few hours? And I think I might have been the person selected for that role just because I was the youngest and nicest on the team.
Hey, personality matters, right? Especially when you're in one call center, but also managing call centers. You know, likability, relatability, interpersonal skills. It's clear you are off the charts in that. So a great candidate for that role.
Yeah,
But
it was pivotal. It was pivotal. That role was so pivotal because it was the first time I'd had a male boss, like a direct manager who was male. The company is at the lower echelons. It's a triangle, and so it is male at the bottom is low and high at the top. And then when you move into the CEO and management levels, it becomes the triangle flips. But the majority of that company, especially member services, is female. So that I'd had all female trainers, I'd had all female supervisors, all female managers. And it was the first time I had a male manager who also saw the value in communicating with me. He put me up for a project that was going to put me into sales, said, look, they need somebody at this particular leadership level who knows what our products are. So your experience in member services makes you uniquely qualified for that. The quality coaching that you had done and knowing how to give people feedback, that's all something that they need in the sales area. Right now, it's a 3 to 6 month project. He's like, it's a 3 to 6 month project. Don't come back. I don't expect you to come back. I think that sales is a place where you could do really, really good things, and I need you to take advantage of this opportunity. It's why I'm nominating you for it.
Yes, a boss that sees you come through. Yes, absolutely. I was just gonna segue into what was mentorship like, and look at that. You had a mentor and a sponsor in a boss. Oh my goodness,
I didn't
you hit
know
the trifecta.
that was at the time. I was just floored that someone saw pieces of me that I wasn't seeing, and that someone saw a trajectory where I could move forward.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
He didn't want to lose me. He didn't want to lose me from the company. That was more important to him than losing me from his very small, understaffed team.
Listen, that right there, you hit it right on the head. Your supervisor knew what an asset you were to the company and knew we need to keep her at the company. I'm okay losing her within my department because she's outgrowing this role and I see it. We can't lose her within the company. I love it. I love it. We all aspire to be a supervisor like this one. And we all aspire to have a supervisor like this one.
Yeah. It's really interesting too, because you don't realize in the moment that someone is advocating for you. but also, like I said, it was the first time that he said, look, I know that you can survive in a non-traditional path. And I know that I can help you do that. Instead of, a lot of them were just, this is the way it goes. This is the next step for you. And whether you want to go in that direction or not, it's the only upward mobility there is. And he was like, that's not the case.
It's the only opportunity in this department.
Right.
But we're in this whole huge organization, and he saw that and recognized that. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, I'm being cognizant of time here. Let's fast forward to current day. Talk to me now about how all of that that journey led you to your current role and lessons that you're still taking with you and using to this day, please.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like I said, I worked for a company where people start and end their careers in that same organization. And they gave me so many opportunities to advance and to take skills that I was learning and move up and move into a different role and take on something different. So I went from sales to marketing to back to sales to communications, ended up in our product area doing something very unique that I was thrilled at, gave me exposure to the entire C-suite, and I loved it. And then I was laid off because 50% of my role was sort of getting this new program up and running. And then they decided that they didn't want to move forward with the program. And so it became a business decision. Despite the years and the relationships in the network and the non-work things that I was doing, as part of our women's inclusion network, I was doing community lead, managing all the swag, helping coordinate volunteer events. But ultimately, it came down to a business decision. They couldn't continue to pay the salary for 50% of the role doing something that they already had a full team doing, essentially. And so literally the month before my 40th birthday, at 19 years and 9 months, I was laid off. I've never been fired. I've never been laid off until that moment. It was devastating. And it was devastating because I saw myself staying there for quite a long time. But I had also convinced myself that my skills weren't transferable outside of that ecosystem. I knew they were transferable in that ecosystem, but I couldn't see how they would translate outside that ecosystem. But I was lucky. It was the perfect time. There was family stuff going on. It gave me the opportunity to focus on family. I got a wonderful severance package, and I said, okay, let's take some time and figure out what I want to do. I went back to school for a little bit. Was sort of exploring the idea of getting into business administration and marketing, just to have that degree, to put on my resume to make me marketable. And I was lucky that Sue, who I had known from working at that company, who had left and gone on and had started Diversity at Workplace, connected with me on LinkedIn, asked, hey, you still looking for work? What's going on? And we had a conversation, and she, just knowing my work ethic, knowing my experience, to me, hired me for operations. She was growing as a company, and she needed someone who could help really get that infrastructure and the behind the scenes stuff coordinated when I'm running. Excuse me. And she offered me / tried to talk me out of the job. It being a small startup, she was very clear about, you are the only person in this role. No one has been in this role. There's a lot that I don't know I need, and there's a lot that I can't really tell you. And you have to think about the work that we're doing. Is this the kind of work that you want to do? Is this company, being sort of still a small startup, the kind of company you want to work for? And I just dove in. I said yes. There was something about what she was doing and wanting to feel like I was making a difference. Like I was helping people in a small microcosm in terms of helping our team and supporting our team, and then helping from a much bigger macro system in terms of what we're putting out into the world. and into the culture of workplaces. It resonated with me, and I took the opportunity. I don't think I realized how much my sales experience, marketing experience, my communication management experience, my project management experience, even my, my member service experience, my being able to take complex ideas and synthesize them into something that people can. I didn't realize when I took the job how much all of those skills made me uniquely qualified to do what I'm doing today.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, one, full circle moment. Two, with Sue being part of a workshop, and then years later coming back saying, your skills, here are all your skills, in a unique way where she feels like she's talking you out of it. But, interesting, you said earlier, like how, my skills make sense in this ecosystem here. How does that translate? And now seeing it, how it does translate, it's phenomenal. And um, one, this is one of the reasons why I'm so glad you came on, because you said it earlier. Your journey wasn't linear. No
No.
one, you didn't know anyone who had did this before, and nor did anyone else. So think of the complexity of someone trying to mentor you or lead you down a path, but also the confidence you had of yourself, like, I see the path you're trying to pave for me, but that's not it. I'm gonna go here, or I'm gonna choose my own path. So the bravery to do that, and then to have folks like yours, that one supervisor, see you along the way. It's ones that we hope for. Two, the other lesson in that is that this all takes strategy. It all takes strategy, and and one and two, it also takes trust, inner trust the process, trust your skills, trust your values, and know that it will lead you where you're destined to be.
Yeah. And I think sometimes what we
Thank you
forget.
so much, Sarah.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say, I think some
Oh,
of what we
please.
also forget in terms of strategizing and mentorship is that it doesn't have to be within the company that you're in. It doesn't even have to be within the industry that you're working in. That a lot of the most valuable mentorship I've had has been from people who are not in my same company or left the company so they knew the environment, but they also knew how misleading the belief that your skills weren't transferable out of that ecosystem was, because they've done it. And so they were willing to say, like, this story you're telling in your head, it's not the reality. And my sister has been a great mentor to me professionally, because the things that she's done in her career, again, without a degree as well, as a self-starter, as a lifelong learner, as a self-educator. And she's always been able to say, like, it's not true. That's a farce. You have transferable skills. You have value. The belief that you have to be buffeted by the wind and go wherever it blows you isn't true. And so having someone to say, nope, sit down, strategize, come back out of the story into reality, it's helpful if they're not in the same industry. It's helpful if they're not in the same company.
Absolutely. Power of mentorship doesn't just have to live in the office, in the same organization. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. So before I let you go, I have what I like to call some spitfire questions. Let's end on a joyous note. So you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, first question. If you didn't have to work your 9 to 5, what would you spend your 50 plus hours a week doing?
Oh, reading. Oh, I'm such an avid reader. Oh, and if I had 50 plus hours a week to do nothing but read, I could be reading multiple books at a time. which means I could be in all these different little ecosystems and worlds. And oh,
I love it. Okay. Let me bring it back.
the
All right.
dream.
For me, I would be like, I read somewhere, don't ask me where, because I have multiple books that I'm going through. So, all right, my next question. What was your last touch grass moment?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know. Tell me more about what you mean by touch grass.
Adventure. What was the last time you went outside?
Adventure. Oh, okay. I'm an indoor cat. I will be honest. I'm an indoor cat. I tend to only sort of venture out when it's something really, really exciting for me. And it's been a little while, but I was watching my brother's dog this weekend. And just he's got this gorgeous, huge backyard, this adorable dog who is so deaf and so afraid of bunnies and rabbits, which is all you see in his backyard. And so just sort of standing out there in the heat and the sun, just laughing at this dog's antics. It was just soothing. It was something I don't think I realized I needed. I needed that vitamin D. I needed that, and it was calm. It's a very quiet. Like all you can hear is the birds and the insects. It's a very quiet street. It's a very quiet neighborhood, and so it was just nature in its glory in the moment.
I love it. I love touch grass moments. You don't even know you realize you need it until you're actually in it.
Yeah.
Well, that was all we have time for today. This time goes by so quickly. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. We got a lot of gems from it. To our audience, thank you all so much for tuning in for another episode. We will see you at same time, same place next Thursday. I want to go ahead and remind folks we have this grassroots campaign of Let's Be Fair. Go ahead and click the QR code, take a picture, scan, sign the petition, pass it on to friends, multiple friends, plural, colleagues, coworkers, parents, anyone in the workforce, pass it on to them. This is letting them know that we at Diversity at Workplace and you are still value diversity, equity, inclusion at work. We all want a workplace where we are seen, valued, and heard. And so we started this grassroots campaign to send a reminder to CEOs that where we work matters. So learn more, sign the petition, pass it on to a friend. Let's make some noise. Let's make a difference. Let's be fair. All right. And then one more thing I have to plug, our Power Moves workshop. So for those of you who, whether you are starting off in your career, you're taking a pause, or just need a reset, join us on July 23rd. Click the QR code to learn more. We have some dynamic programs in place for you today. It's a virtual ticket. Come be in community, learn the skills of what it really takes. We're playing chess, not checkers, what it takes to advancing your career. All right, everyone, we will see you next week. Have a fabulous weekend. Take care of yourself. Take care of others around you. There's a lot going on, but we can't do it alone. Let's stay together. Let's lean on each other and spread the love. We'll see you all next week. Bye.
Thanks.